Yep, it's happening. It's happening in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Tyson Fury will finally return to the ring this weekend when he faces former UFC champion Francis Ngannou in a crossover bout, as it's been described, over in Saudi Arabia. The American promoter of Tyson Fury, Bob Arum, who's seen and done the lot in the sport of boxing, joins us live this morning. Bob, good morning to you. I mean, I suppose you've got no choice now, but was this a fight that you really wanted to see or not?
I think it's a fight that really fascinates a lot of people. I'm a purist, so I would have much preferred Fury to fight Usyk now, but hopefully that'll come before the end of the year. But this fight really has piqued my imagination. Ngannou has been training in Las Vegas, trained by, of all people, Mike Tyson, and he's impressed a lot of us with his ability. He is the hardest punching guy that I've seen in a long time. So I think it's going to be a fascinating fight.
Okay, I mean, more recently we saw KSI against Tommy Fury. Now we've got this crossover bout, as it's been described, with Tyson against Ngannou. Does the world of boxing need them, Bob, is where I'm driving at? Because you're a boxing purist, of course you are. You've done everything.
You can't compare the KSI, God bless him, with Ngannou. Ngannou has a resume, and you can just look it up and see all his knockout victories in UFC, which is a real sport. This other stuff is just social media guys playing around. This is a real fight. This is an interesting fight. I would be shocked if Ngannou was able to knock Tyson Fury out. But I'm sitting here with the president of the World Boxing Council, Mauricio Sulaiman, who also says it's a possibility because of how hard Ngannou punches.
Right. So alongside me is my colleague Simon Jordan. So Simon, for that reason, Bob would probably suggest to you and I watch it because Ngannou's got a chance.
Yeah, of course he would, because he's promoting the event. I think the key component of what I'm taking from Bob is the same position that I would take, is I'm a boxing purist. I would much prefer the WBC champion of the world, which is one of the major belts, to be fighting in the best format, which is against the elite fighters in his particular discipline. And what Frank Warren has done, and Bob will probably double down on, is implore people to understand the nature of the relationship with the latest money in the sport is the Middle East. This opens the door to the finances that provide the solution to the Usyk Fury conundrum financially. Is that a fair observation, Bob?
I think that's not only fair, but it's a very astute observation, because that is exactly what the situation is. That all of us in boxing are grateful that His Excellency Turkey and his group stepped up and became so enthusiastic about the sport of boxing that they're starting with Fury and Ngannou, and it will continue with Fury and Usyk, plus, as I understand it, a rematch, automatic rematch, win or lose either guy.
So Bob, let me jump in. Are we at a stage now, because with your vast experience, and you promoted some of the biggest fights that we've ever seen, but is it the case now that you and other promoters dotted around the planet cannot put on a major fight without Saudi help, without Saudi backing, without Saudi involvement?
You know, I'm an old guy, and I remember this question being asked me: is it possible to put on a major fight without the backing of the Las Vegas casinos?
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yep.
Back in the late 70s and early 80s. Oh, if it wasn't for the casinos backing the sport, you couldn't get these big events. Well, that's true for now. The Saudis have, in effect, are using boxing to help build the infrastructure in Riyadh and in other places in Saudi Arabia, because their goal is to become a big sports and entertainment center, just as the Las Vegas casinos years ago used boxing to become a sports and entertainment center. And let me remind you, look at what's happened in Vegas.
Yeah.
If they used boxing, it became the centerpiece because no other major sport would go there. Now we have an American football team, professional football team there, the championship hockey team.
It's all changed.
Right?
No, I go with that, Bob. But here's the situation. On Saturday night, what we're going to see, Simon, we both decided, Bob, that it doesn't interest us both sufficiently to take this in. So I'll second guess it, that Ngannou comes close, staggers Fury a few times, Fury outpoints him, and of course wins in the end. It's been an incredible event. Goodbye, and everybody goes home. After that,
well, if that's the way it turns out, then everybody will have gotten their money's worth.
Well, possibly. I mean, what do you think will happen?
What I hope would happen and what I think would happen are two different things. What I hope would happen is that Ngannou tries like hell to hit Fury. Fury, with his better boxing ability, is able to escape danger and finally knocks out Ngannou. That's what I hope.
All right.
I'm a Fury promoter.
You think Fury will put him away? I think he'll probably outpoint him. I don't know what you think, Simon. What do you think?
Yeah, I know. I think Bob expects that there will be an outcome that's Fury is obviously in his discipline.
Yeah.
He is generationally probably the best heavyweight around. So you would assume in his discipline that he will come through this fight with a degree of intrigue for the punter. But the reality is the expected outcome is nobody wants to jeopardise the real prize at the end of this, which is the Fury-Usyk fight in the boxing world. Do you worry, Bob? I don't suppose you do, about the nature of the perception of the Middle East, the reasons why they're doing sport, and some of the cultural challenges that the Western world has about the acceptance of certain communities? Does that price into your thinking? Going to Vegas and fighting in Vegas, besides some of the morality issues around what goes on in Vegas, stays in Vegas, but it doesn't have the
same kind of discussion then as there is now. How can you take a sport like boxing and put it in Las Vegas with the whole history of criminal
enterprise,
gangs controlling the casinos? You kill the sport, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look, the Saudis are not doing this to sport wash. They're too smart for that. I am sure what they're doing it is to build up an area which will be attractive to tourists from all over the world.
Oh, yeah, but Bob, I'm sorry, mate. Bob, I'm sorry. I agree with you that the Saudis, but they are doing it to sport wash because a significant part of the Western world doesn't embrace their culture, doesn't look at their human... But
that's not sports washing.
But it is, Bob. That's the very definition of sports washing. What you're doing is you're legitimizing a culture and using a sport to do it.
No, they're doing it for economic reasons.
Oh, I know why they're doing it. Yeah.
To build the area. They're not just throwing this money.
But Bob, again, I make
drain.
the point that, of course, they're doing it to create an alternate opportunity because they've got a sovereign wealth fund of 650 billion. They've got oil under the ground and a world that's changing its direction around fossil fuels. I know why they're doing it, but they're using sport as a mechanism to create that lever with a series of societal challenges like the outlawing of homosexuality, like the treatment of women, which is not the same as putting fights in a casino just because once upon a time some of the Las Vegas gangsters owned it. It is a different landscape. The question was, does it worry you? The answer is, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't, because I really believe that the reason they're doing it is to build an economy that is much more long-lasting
Yeah.
than the economy based on oil.
Okay, Bob, here's the thing. I think, with all due respect, you're 91 and still sounding and looking great. Before your 92nd birthday, are you going to give us Fury Joshua?
92nd, I'll be 92nd in December.
Okay.
Fury's going to fight Usyk, then he'll fight Usyk again. I mean, I can't promise you Joshua before my 92nd birthday, which is this December 8th. If you ask me that about my 93rd birthday, well, I'll consider it.
Okay.
Bob, as one of the greatest promoters around, and I'm not blowing smoke up your backside here, but I'm just simply saying it as it is, and you've presided over some of the greatest fights and been around in some of the greatest eras, there is a feeling in boxing that the heavyweight division has not been carrying its weight, metaphorically, and that it's let people down with the fact that some of the biggest fights that we'd like to see haven't happened. Do you think that's fair? Or do you think it's just circumstance, and now we're going to see an opportunity for the fights that we want to see, the big fights being made between the big names in the heavyweight division, start to manifest themselves on a regular basis?
I'm here to tell you that what you said about the heavyweight division is absolutely correct. It hasn't been as exciting as it should be, and the heavyweight division has always not always, but most of the times carried boxing. But let me tell you now that the heavyweight division is really changing. I have never seen so many good young heavyweights coming up from all over the world. I mean, you will have action now in the heavyweight division like we had before during Ali's time, when we had all these great heavyweights. Now we're coming into an era where you're going to get it, except the difference is the heavyweights will come not from one country, as it did in the Ali days, being the United States, but from countries all over the world. There are great heavyweights coming out of Africa, certainly from Eastern Europe, and in the United States, it's having a rebirth as well. And the UK, had heavyweights that I didn't think measured up to the Americans.
Bob. So it sounds like the heavyweight division is back. Bob, we'll have to call time in this, but we want to thank you for your time. Bob Arum.